Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Live, or a new metaphor for your toolbox. Now, today we're going to talk about Trump, but please, this is, I don't want to make this, I'm trying not to make it into a political talk, but a talk about consciousness and modernity and why we're in a fix like we're in. And I use Trump because it's such a good outline on the whiteboard of our history right now. And he's a phenomena, he's something new, and he's inexplicable. Nobody can put him in a box. Nobody can say he's this or that. He's ambiguous. And so, why is ambiguity certain? You see, ambiguity is uncertainty. Yet Trump creates certainty out of ambiguity. So let's look into that without getting into, why are you always talking about Trump? Why not talk about Hillary? No, we don't want to go there. All right. Now, the certainty of Trump's ambiguity is our topic, but let me start with a Tolle trope, a Tolle quote, okay? Because that's what we do. We start off with a Tolle, and it has some relevance to how we're going to move this talk. So, what really matters is not what function you fulfill in the world, but whether you identify with it, to the extent that it takes you over and becomes a role you play. When you play roles, you are unconscious. When you catch yourself playing a role, that recognition creates a space between you and the role. Okay, so Tolle's talking about it's not what function you fulfill, but whether you identify with your function or your role or what you're doing, to the extent that it does you instead of you doing it. This is like an actor who identifies with his character to such an extent that he forgets he's an actor. And he continues doing the role after he leaves the play. Or, my father, for instance, identified with his role as a Navy officer, and he couldn't let it go. He was a Navy officer, a captain at home. When he retired, he couldn't work for any civilians because they didn't salute him. So he just was a bitter, angry guy, you see, because he couldn't drop his role. But anyway, I don't want to get off on that. So, okay. The certainty of Trump's ambiguity. So first of all, let's take a look at what consciousness is and what stabilizes it. And there's a fundamental ambiguity in our human consciousness that we can all recognize. We all know it, but we don't see it, if you know what I mean, or understand it. The fundamental ambiguity of human consciousness is that there are two aspects of me. There is the seer and the seen. I both see you and I am seen by you. Seer, but both are aspects of me. I think women really appreciate this double aspect of consciousness. And men too, but particularly women, in that they want to be seen. And when they're in a relationship with a man, they are both the seer of the man, but they want to be seen by the man, so they can see themselves through the eyes of the man. My wife always comes in and says, do I look okay? Now, what she wants to do, because if she just looks at herself, she's the seer. but she wants to see herself through the eyes of me with affirmation. So she wants to be affirmed through my eyes. That's the seer and the seen. So we all want to be affirmed through the eyes of it. We all want to be seen and validated through the eyes of another. That's what Facebook is all about. Go on Facebook to be seen. I'm the seer. I see Facebook. I see myself writing. I'm the seer. I'm the doer. I'm the doer. I'm the seer. But I want to be seen and validated through the other, you see. If I'm not validated and they say, well, you're an idiot, off we go. Or we get affirmed through the other. Oh, I really, amen, prayers for you, prayers for you. Hey, you're right, so right, prayers for you. Or you're an idiot. The desire to be seen favorably creates a virtuous circle. The being seen unfavorably creates a vicious circle, a feedback loop. Whoa, 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 whoa. Or lovey, 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 lovey. Or blah, 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 blah. You see, it can go either way. Energy of affirmation grows. Energy of invalidation and violence grows. And this is symbolized by the auroborus, the dragon that eats itself. This is the seer. And this tail is the seen. And unless this can go, remember, violence or it can go to love. A romantic relationship goes to love. The seer and the seen are both seeing and being seen and seeing the other in a validation of each other. So it goes, oh, love, 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 up to ecstasy. Or you're on the subway and somebody looks at you with a frown or an evil eye, stares at you. And that same seer and seen, I'm being seen by that guy on this, that guy stared at me. That guy is staring at me. Why is he staring at me? Now I'm going towards fear, terror. And we have examples of that all the time. Somebody stares at you, or you're in you're in traffic and somebody cuts you off and you give them the finger, you stare at them, and they follow you home. They follow you home because this has triggered the auroborus, and they've got to come up and stop it. They've got to go do something to you to stop this internal ouroborus. So you get the idea here that this ouroborus is a function of our human consciousness, and we have to stabilize it. So we stabilize it. Now, Joseph Campbell taught me so much in this. And basically his final conclusion was, after all his life study, was that modern man has erased all the centers, all of the mythological mythology stabilizes us. That's why religion is mythology. Religion stabilizes us. Religion stabilizes the ouroborus with a fixed certainty. And so modern rationality, science, has erased all the fixed certainty. Erased the Catholic Church that used to be the dome over everything. Erases mythology. Unicorns are gone. Fairies are gone. You see, all the stabilizing stories, mythologies are all opinion or fantasy. The world is not stabilized in the secular world. It's all just a bunch of marbles bumping against each other. There's no fixed point. Einstein said that there was no fixed point from which you could view reality. There is no fixed point that doesn't move. Everything is moving. Buddha says that everything is impermanent. Everything is moving. Everything is changing and moving. And when everything is changing, it's kind of like you're in a snowstorm at a whiteout. There's no stabilizing point. Or you're in a forest and your compass fails. It's just trees. Or you're in a desert and your compass fails. There's not a single thing. There's nothing to stabilize you. If you just had one tree, the North Star was the stabilizing thing in a snowstorm of stars, you see. That one star was fixed, so you could follow that star and get out of the labyrinth. You could get out of the labyrinth of the auroborus. You see, if there is no fixed point, the auroborus rises and you go into terror. The terror of having no fixed point that stabilizes consciousness. You have to see that, because we encounter it all the time. I do. I go to Walmart with a list, and there's some ambiguity in the list my wife gives me, and I can't choose. Oh, is it this or is it that? Or is it that or this? Well. Oh, I'm going to go home and say I can't find it. I can't choose. I don't know which is it. Clerk, could you come over and find this for me? The fixed point. You see, so these are little things that we run into all the time, but we just, find a way to fix it. You call tech support. You call the priest. You call the therapist. You call your good friend. You pet your dog. The dog is a fixed point. That dog always loves you. So no matter how the ouroboros is consuming you, that dog is a fixed point. So we all have our little fixed points. Quilting. I'm all confused, I'm anxious, I'll just quilt. I'm confused, I'm anxious, I'll do a crossword puzzle. That's a fixed point. So I think just to flip back to Tolle for a minute before we get into Trump. So when you identify with a function to the extent that it takes you over and becomes a role you play, a role then becomes a way we fix ourselves. My father identified with the role of a naval officer, and that fixed him. The world is very stable when you are fixed in a role, but if you identify with it, then the role does you, and you're unconscious. So I think this is a big problem in the modern world, in that we identify with roles, and then the role does us, and it just becomes a bulldozer. That might be the problem with the police and black people. If you identify with the role of the police officer as a pit bull, then you're going to bite everybody. You're not going to see individual situations. The role just goes, keeps on going. So the role becomes unconscious. And now we see the flooded with these YouTube examples caught on camera where the role has taken over the people. And they just shoot the guy because he happened to move his hand the wrong way, you see. So the terror of the police officer is that he has to be fixed in his role to keep the ouroborus of his own consciousness from consuming him. Is that hand going, is he going for a gun or for a wallet? Oh, I don't know. Bam! So situations that create ambiguity create the need for an automatic role to stabilize the situation. But anyway, well, let's get to Trump. Now, Trump, I just saw this today, and I'm really excited about it. Because when you turn on the news in the morning, every day, Trump will contradict himself in the same talk. He'll say, the Russian thing is a hoax, and Obama did it. Something like that. And the news people are going nuts because they are modern, rational, logical analysts. It's the journalist's job to rationally analyze a situation, you see, and make clear and distinct ideas from the hodgepodge of evidence and dots. So the journalist wants to fix this snowstorm of data, you see. That's what the CIA and analysis does. You got a snowstorm of data. That's what an inspector detective does in the mysteries. You got a snowstorm of data, of clues, and he tries to fix this auroborus by finding out through the evidence the cause of the ambiguity, the cause of the confusion. See, ambiguity is impossible for a rational, clear-thinking mind, where reality must be clear and distinct. It can't be both this and that at the same time. It's got to be one or the other. It has to be fixed. Reality has to be one. It can't be simultaneously two at the same time. And that's why we watch these British mysteries, and they're all about ambiguity and reestablishing certainty. Well, did this guy do it or that guy do it? Well, the evidence points to this one and the evidence points to that one. So you can only have one person doing it. Now, we watch this A Murder in Paradise, and they keep coming up with the two people that did it. You see? In other words, the ambiguity, there's that, well, who did it? He did it. He didn't do it. Who did it? Ah, the detective goes, two people conspired to do it. Aha. Certainty restored. Ambiguity removed, you see. But Trump thrives on ambiguity. Now, how is this possible? How does ambiguity stop the auroborus, which is runaway ambiguity? The auroborus is like a nuclear power plant that is broken free of its constraints. You can't stop it. You can't stop this thing when it breaks free of its fixed center. Because the seer and the seen are both trying. Now, this is so interesting. There needs to be a fixed, stable point to stop the ouroboros, to stop our consciousness from consuming itself into a panic attack. That's what panic is. Oh, wow, 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 wow. You see, panic is a unleashed ouroboros. So, what fixes it? There has to be a fixed point to stop it, to focus on. Do you notice anything about this? I've been drawing this ouroboros for years, and I suddenly saw something that appeared to me. I just created an ohm. Do you see the ohm? Do you see the ohm? Boom. So this is the fixed point that stabilizes the ambiguity. It's like being in a snowstorm and you don't know where you are. And there's a fixed point. You see something ahead. And you go towards that. That stabilizes consciousness, you see. Or you're in a new place. You walk out of a movie. I remember the first time this happened to me. I walked out of a movie. I was so into the movie. And I walked out and I had no idea where I was. I was like Alzheimer's. I don't know where my car is. I don't know what direction to go. It's kind of like when you come out of a dream, and which is really strong, and you wake up and you're not quite, for a few moments, you're not quite sure where you are. Where? Oh, I'm in my bedroom. Then everything is fixed. But for a moment you were unfixed. And there's a certain uncertainty, little fear in that, you see. We got to be fixed. It's kind of like the photography paper in the dark room. your picture's developing and you say, oh, there it is, and you take it out and you put it in the fixer. Otherwise, it just keeps on developing. So consciousness is like that. We have to keep fixing it. So Trump has fixed the consciousness of the people that get under his umbrella. Now, the umbrella, I put this as a good metaphor here because if you look at the modern world that has removed all of the mythological umbrellas that mankind has used to stabilize himself, and remember, myth and religion is stabilized through ritual. Primitive tribes spend a great deal of time with rituals, dances. These rituals and these dances stabilize the consciousness of the tribe so it functions as one consciousness, like a basketball team that functions as an organism, right? So when you got all these there's no ego in a tribe. But now modern man has erased all of the mythological structures that held human consciousness in place and just created a beach. So now it took away all the umbrellas. So now the heat of ambiguity, the heat of the auroborus, threatens us in the modern world because there's nothing to hold on to. Everybody's changing. I live here in Blackstone, and people that grew up here, Blackstone is this dot. Blackstone fixes the ouroboros, and if wherever you are, if you're in California, if Blackstone for the people that grew up here is the fixed point, and you come back and you regenerate yourself, update your database. Oh, well, so and so died, so and so got married, so and so left town. This happened to so and so, so and so, so and so. Oh, okay. And now I can go back to California. I've updated my database. You see. I've restored my center. But what happens if you have no hometown and you live in an urban world? Nobody knows where the house they grew up. Nobody knows the neighborhood. It's all gone. It's all plowed up, asphalt. Everything is in flux. So this creates a very instability, uncertainty. Who am I? I don't know. And that's why Tolle's talking about here that the function people do is the fixed point too. We stabilize ourselves by our function, and we can't stop doing the function because we won't know who I am. See, so I know who I am by my function, so I can't stop being that function, so it becomes unconscious. And then I just do it and roll over people, you see, because I have to maintain my function, and it becomes unconscious, and it does you see. So this whole spiritual practice we're involved in here is, as Tolle says, becoming conscious of the role, being aware of the role, and that awareness of the role creates a space between you and the role. And then you can do the role or not do the role, but you're not held captive by the role or the function. So, but getting back to Trump again. Now this is a insight I just had this morning, and I don't know if anybody's ever. I doubt if it makes sense to anybody, but I'm sharing it with you. The power of Trump is his ambiguity. Now why? So the Trump umbrella. If you look at the beach, everybody's got an umbrella. The big umbrellas and little umbrellas. There's a liberal umbrella. There's a Republican conservative umbrella, and now within the conservative Republican umbrella, the big tent, there is the Trump umbrella. So now the Republican Party has got it separate. There's the moderates, there's the hardliners, and the middle, and the people in the, you got several umbrellas in the Trump umbrella, you see. But each one is there to stabilize consciousness with a fixed point of view, or a fixed ideology, or a fixed philosophy, or a fixed idea, you see. But Trump is a person. Trump is a flesh and blood person who is obviously, particularly to those people outside of the Trump umbrella, ambiguous. He takes both sides and is comfortable with it. That's what blows people away. He doesn't care if he just contradicted himself. He doesn't care if he's ambiguous. So I think this is his attraction, those who are not under his umbrella drives them crazy, and those who under his umbrella makes them feel certain. Because, and this is really, so Trump really is a yes-no person. He'll say, yes, I did it, and no, I didn't do it. In the same tweet, you see. But the point is that he is secure, he is at rest, he is okay with the uncertainty of ambiguity. So this makes him very attractive to people who are not certain with the auroborus, who are afraid of the auroborus, who are afraid of the modern world that is eating up all of the certainties. I used to be certain of myself in the past when everything was like go watch classic movies of the 40s and 50s. And everybody was certain of who they were because everybody was identified with a role in society. You had the black people were the maids and the valets, and you had the men who knew the best, and you had the women who kind of like took care of them. In the Mad Men, women had they could be a housewife or a secretary, and a secretary took care of the men. Basically, the secretary was the valet, the personal servant of her boss. And then her goal was to marry one of these guys and live in the suburbs and become queen of the little house and serve the man when he came home. Those were the two, serve the man at work, serve the man at home. That was it. Those were functions. And of course, it all fell apart. Women stopped identifying with it. But anyway, that's another story. But what the point is that these functions stop the ouroborus, the seer, from eating the seen. You see, the seer, there must be one. You see here, this is one. There must be one. There can't be two me's. There can't be a seer and a seen. There can't be two of me. That's schizophrenia. That's the hall of mirrors reflecting each other. Woo, woo, woo. Put two mirrors together. What happens? Just infinite reflections of each other. You can't stop it. That's the terror of consciousness, that it must be stabilized. And that's why it becomes creative. So we create a fixed dot. Just like this talk here. Okay? So this idea that Trump is the power of Trump is that his certainty in his own ambiguity. See, if the modern world is ambiguous, it's this or that, I don't know. And Trump comes along and says, I'm both. You see? So I stabilize the ambiguity by sitting right in the middle of it. I'm on both sides of the fence. Today I'm this, yesterday I was that. Or right now I'm this and that. That stabilizes the ambiguity because you're okay with it. And that is the way we create. Because when you get in a situation where there is it's called a double bind, you can't choose your way out of it, because either choose is a lose-lose. So this is a double bind. No matter what I do, I'm screwed. No matter what I do, I lose. We all find these little moments, and it creates great frustration. You see, because we want to win, we want to be able to choose and have a clear, stable consciousness, you see. So when we can't choose, we go into a panic. And you choose for me. I got these martini glasses here. People come in, a couple. I'm giving these away. Choose one. Oh, me? And so the woman will usually be, this is on the average, the woman will, I'll pick this one, and the man is there. And the wife will see his perplexity. He can't choose. And she, how about this one, honey? Oh, that's the perfect one. Whew, thank you. So, when we can't choose, we go with the auroborus certains, so we have to have somebody who can choose for us. Somebody who can stabilize us. You see. And Trump stabilizes the auroborus, the either or, the dilemma, because he's okay with the dilemma. He thrives on it. He feeds on it. He grows powerful in it, you see. Because he's not this or that. He's both. And so that when it's both, you see, you have created something new out of the opposites. So Trump, in the eyes of the people under his umbrella, is creating himself out of the ambiguity of the moment we are in. So every day there's a new opportunity for ambiguity and to create himself out of it, you see. Kellyanne Conway, his spokesman, constantly affirms his ambiguity, and it drives other people crazy because they want certainty, logic. It's this, it can't be both this and that. And so, she says, well, he has alternate facts. You see, you can't have two sets of facts. You have to have one truth. You can't have two truths, each with its own set of facts. But that's what we have today. So Trump is a phenomenon that we can't logically understand because he sits on the yes-no of ambiguity and creates himself out of it. So he creates himself every day. Now this is art, but it doesn't make a good policy. As a national spokesman, America can't be ambiguous. A nation can't be yes and no. A nation can't be either or. It's okay, either one. You see, a nation has to be one. One reality. And what we do in our country is that the most people who vote for a reality, that becomes a reality, as personified by the president. So the president is the tent pole of a reality that we vote to put up over us. The majority gets to make the tent pole, the umbrella of policy or direction or whatever we want to do, you see. And the president, as a God-man, so to speak, as a flesh and blood of the law. In other words, the president holds up this reality we have voted on by his personhood, you see. So he is both the umbrella and the tent pole, both the human and the reality that he holds up, you see. So that's kind of a magic, mythic office, you see. It's the God-man. He's both God and man. He's ambiguous. Before he became president, he's just a man. But while president, he's God-man. And then after president, after he's out, he's just man again. You see how that works? So before the president, you're just a man. When you're the president, you are the God-man. And then after that, you're... So anyway, so I hope you get this sense of what we're saying here, and why Trump is a god to those who are under his umbrella and a devil to those who are not under his umbrella. And I really think that his power to keep the auroborus away from his followers is in that he himself is a fixed point that somehow magically is able to be stable in the face of ambiguity. You see. And that basically is the creative act. When you're in a situation where you don't know what to do, you've got either or, both are equally valuable, so there's no fixed choice there. You accept the uncertainty. And out of that, being able to sustain or be patient and rest in the uncertainty, a creative idea is born. A new idea. So, aha, I see. And now the ambiguity is gone, because that new idea has included both the either or of the ambiguity. And that's art. Art contains the ambiguity and creates a new whole. It's a metaphor. So in that sense, Trump is a metaphor, because he contains the ambiguity of every situation, which is what is. Every moment, you see, everything that happens in our life now, whatever happens, immediately goes into two realities. It's either left or right. Boom. And then the war begins. No, you're right. No, you're right. No, you're right. No, I'm right. I'm right. I'm right. You see, oh, wow. The feedback loop. So we have to stabilize that thing. The Republican Party has always been the party of the fixed point. The liberals have always been the modern world. So you got all these different voices. Black voices, LBG voices, women's voices, all these different voices, you see. And the Republican Party has always won because it was one voice, one point, one principle. Hold the principle, stick to the principle, don't give in, don't be wishy-washy, don't be a pussy, be a man, stick to the point, hold it, you see. That's been the strength of the Republican Party. And it really became regimented with Newt Gingrich, you see. And also that became the Republicans' Party attraction to the religious mind, because the religious mind is all about fixing the point. Jesus fixes the world. Focus on Jesus and everything comes into place. So religion has always been about a fixed point around which you can integrate your world and stop the auroborus from consuming you. You see. So when religion and politics merged, now you have to find a fixed point in history, not in some cross or something, or a Bible. No, the fixed point has to be in history, in a person, in a president. So the president for the Republicans then becomes the fixed point that stabilizes modernity. So Trump is a phenomena that has come out of this Republicans claiming the fixed point as the one who fixes America as a fixed point, the stable point, you see. And so Trump came along and swept the field and declared himself the fixed point. But he's ambiguous. And the whole Republican Party's power came from not being ambiguous, but being fixed. It was principle forever with the Republican Party. The woman's need, abortion, anti-abortion is a principle. So I don't care what the woman's needs is. You can't have an abortion. I don't care. If your life's threatened, I don't care. Abortion is we fix ourselves on non-abortion. That function then rolls over everything. It's fixed. The Catholic Church does that. It has its fixed dogma that it will not change. Because if it does, the auroborus can come in. The auroborus can come in, you see. So to keep this dragon away, we have to keep our fixed point. And in the modern world, the fixed point is the ego. But the ego is not fixed, it's just an image. So the ego has to fix itself by getting under a tent, an ideology, a group, a family, a function, anything that will fix the ego and stabilize the auroborus. So, in this whole practice, to conclude, with Tolle and all this non-duality, all this basically is a intention to face the auroborus. The intention to go into the auroborus without any fixed idea, without any umbrella. To go into the auroborus, to face the dragon, to look at the minotaur, to look at our pain, naked, unafraid, without the umbrella of a fixed point of view or an opinion, you see. Okay, thank you so much for dropping in. I went a little bit beyond the time I wanted to go.